What's up, guys? So it's Kiki here, and so funny story. I took the commuter rail and the subway for the first time yesterday by myself, actually ever in Boston, and so that was an adventure. I needed to do an errand down there. So those who don't know, my car is busted, and so it had to be towed. But that's a different story. Let's just hop right in. Yeah, so when I was on my way to Boston, I got 2 messages from God. So when I post this video, it's gonna be after I post my short. I'm posting the short today, today that I'm filming. But yeah, God gave me 2 messages, and we're talking about this one, which is about feminism, and the feminist movement is the most literally demonic thing ever. So let's start off with what even is the feminist movement. So basically it was a whole bunch of just, wanting equal rights, wanting equal pay, stopping sexual harassment, wanting to be seen as equal, wanting to do equal. And it's just like, if y'all are even a Christian and even know how God intended the earth to be and the rules intended, it's completely demonic. And I just made a marriage video, so if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it here. I think I can put it there. Anyway, but yeah, so go watch the marriage video. But, that's not how God intended it to be. The fact that we as women don't need to be taking on male roles, and this completely skews everything. For those who already know my testimony, I grew up where my mother took on the masculine roles in the home, and this messed everything up. And when I tell you everything, I mean it made her party, like her side, unstable, the feminine part of like the household, and then it also made him go into a more feminine state, meaning that they both weren't doing the roles, and so it affected me and my siblings a lot. But so let's talk about like the first problems, which is the fact of unequal pay. Yeah, I mean, of course, if women do work, and I'm not saying that God has called all women not to work. I mean, again, it also has to take accountability of where we're at right now. Yes, we're still like at a place where women actually do need to work because we mess things up so much. But originally, no, women are supposed to take care of the home, take care of the children. That is like the most prized possession a woman can do in her life, is to have a healthy and stable and, keeping up with the home and supporting their husband. I think that even, in today's society, how we are as women supposed to still be taking care of the household and taking care of our husband. Now what we have is that we have to also now work, and that goes into other stuff, but I'll get into that in a second. But we have to think about, okay, first of all, it's the hurt. Okay, so the whole thing started basically because women were hurt about not having, reproductive rights. First of all, reproductive rights, God created us, and the only reproductive rights that we should have is to be doing as God wants us to do with our reproductive rights, because technically our rights are His first, because He's the one who created us, He's the one who created with the plan and purpose. So all this reproductive rights for, having birth control and having abortions and all that stuff, that is demonic to the max. Like, that is murder. And if we want to go into a whole bunch of politics, I can do that for a bit, because if we really think about it, what abortion is, first of all, it's murder. How can, we all agree that if a pregnant woman is murdered, that is called double homicide. And on top of that, just because somebody is at a different state of development does not make them more or less of a human. Okay, so just because, an elderly is actually at a more progressive state in their lifetime, does that make them more or less worthy of life? And that's basically what we're playing on right now. But the thing is that nobody really wants to connect the dots, because we're prideful and we want to do our own way. Because the thing is that if we are just saying that a fetus isn't really a human, okay, so I was once a fetus. You who are actually, for abortions and for murdering a fetus, which is just a developmental stage, just as we have the labels of youth, young adults, elderly, all that stuff, babies, those are just names of stages. Okay, so now you're saying that, okay, a fetus isn't worthy of life. Like, you were once a fetus. Does that mean that now, because you're outside of your mother's womb, and now that you are, let's say a young adult or an adult, a mid-aged adult, that you are more worthy than that fetus just because that they're still developing? Like, and just because, if they even have this argument that, that individuals who, this drives me nuts, but people have this argument that individuals like fetuses, that they're parasites because they need something from their mother. Okay, so you need air, water, food to breathe. So that means that you're a social parasite, that you still rely on the government and the economy and all these things to survive. So in a way, if you're claiming that a parasite, which is the total absolute ridiculous use of the word parasite, because a fetus needs something from their mother, is like saying that, okay, well, an elderly needs assistance, therefore they're a parasite, therefore we should murder an elderly. This is ridiculous. So that's just reproductive rights. Let's be clear that there's only two genders, which is male and female, and you are what you are born with. And there's no really argument on that. You are what you're born with, all right? So, and then when we go to voting, you could argue that women and males should both be able to vote, Okay, now, if we are going to go on to equal pay, sure, I could argue that, if women work and men work, it should be equal pay. But the thing is that if you really counteract where this equal pay is coming from, it's because of this position where, okay, now, and there's actually testimonies of women who wanted to be better than men and who wanted to prove themselves, and later on in life, they actually regretted that mistake, and all they wanted was actually to be a stay-at-home wife, and they didn't want this competition, and they wanted it easier. Why? Because women aren't actually made for the purpose of having this like rigid, 9-to-4 job, work, take care. Because not only do, majority of individuals who actually are a single mother have to work the 9-to-4 and then also have to still take care of their kids and do this and that. And it's just like, even single parents, not even just single mothers, like I don't want to just put it all on single mothers, but also single fathers, then they have to also, and this also goes into child care, because like the inflation went up actually because women are working. Then on top of that, we actually have to take into account that child care, also has to be done. Because why? If a woman has to work, and let's say this is a, even let's say a godly marriage, right? And then the woman works. Okay, so somebody has to take care of that child. And then the thing is that this is also where a lot of conflict comes in, not only within the couple, because then they have to balance their, the work life and all that stuff. Maybe they're going to have different times of working, then they have to figure out the schedules. Then who's going to take care of the kid? When are they actually going to spend time together? Then when they're actually going to spend time together as a family. It puts a lot of strain on the family when both individuals are working. But now that majority of women are working, and that's just now how the society and economics have just come up. That means that, that basically inflation went up, childcare, and then on top of that, we are kind of in a position now where the economics is that everyone has to work. You can't just have a father who is working unless he works a super job that he gets a lot of money, that he's very successful. And again, success in the Christian realm does not equal how much money you have. It's about your spiritual alignment with God. But in the context of this, that's what I meant. And then, gender equality, it's I want to be the man, I want to be strong. And then, the girl, I forget her name, with the hair tie and, going like that with the arm, that is just okay, let's push masculinity on females. And, let's also, then further down the line, let's also push that women can become males and males can become females. Why? Because we're so confused on our roles as genders. Then as far as like sexual harassment, like I honestly feel like that shouldn't even have been part of the feminist movement, because that's just like, honestly, I feel like they added the sexual harassment to the feminist movement, because if you think about it, what it really is the majority is the reproductive rights, equal pay, then gender equality, then voting. And I feel like if you just smack on anything like sexual harassment, which is just like general rights to your body, of course, then, you know, if you argue against the feminist movement, then you're going to be like, oh, so you're okay about men abusing women. But if you really look at like the majority of the context of the feminist movement, it's really not about like the abuse of women. That's like in a different context. What really the feminist movement was a push for equality, and that women wanted to be able to prove to others in society that we could do as much as male could do. And you know where this comes in? Then now this pushes on to my main point, which is the sequencing of how this all pretty much just went to terrors. So really, now that women have all this hurt and la-di-da-di-do, then what they did was just like, okay, let's put all this hurt and, you know, fight with the feminist movement, and now we want power. My goodness, women in power is just like, and you know, all this, like Beyonce. First of all, I'm not even talking about Beyonce because that's a whole bunch of demonic stuff. But it's just like, you know, who run the world, girls. And yeah, actually that's confirmation, because God showed me that when he was telling me that, he was like, he put that song in my head. So, yeah, no. Women should not run the world. And first of all, God runs the world. And then who did he put first? Male, and then female. So it's a whole bunch of no. And then on top of that, okay, so now we want equal pay. So now we made like inflation and the economy basically a whole bunch of like something that it shouldn't have been, because now, like I said, it makes like where everyone pretty much in society has to work, and especially if you're a couple, that it's really hard to have one person in the household working. And then that goes also into divorce rates. Why? Because now women want to be in this masculine role, and it has been in a lot of different, especially specific cultures, have been where the women have become more masculine, and so then that gives males the opportunity, okay, so my woman's a man now, so I get a step back and not do what I'm supposed to do. And then you know, that just goes further and further, where it's just like, okay, now, you know, because we're not really where we're supposed to be at in God's purpose, now we have just two individuals, male and female, that are just like working in demonic spirits. And of course, the enemy's not going to be for a godly marriage. So what? They're going to become divorced, even if they were a Christian or weren't a Christian. There's going to be some type of demonic influence. And then that just comes with a whole bunch of pride. And then, you know, what happens with the children? Then there's generational curses. Like, I mean, I could go on and on about this, but then this goes into, you know, having ungodly marriages, and then this goes into sex outside of marriage. So, I mean, first of all, if we were in God's purpose and plan in the first place, then that would mean that we wouldn't be having sex outside marriage. And then if we didn't have sex outside of marriage, then we would actually not have the problem of abortions. We wouldn't have the problem of sexually transmitted diseases, especially within the homosexuals. And then we wouldn't have, sorry, it's so loud over here, but, you know, we wouldn't have these problems that come with sex outside of marriage. And then we don't have to, you know, have these individuals who get married just because, you know, now they have a baby on the way. And, you know, first of all, what if they weren't even supposed to get married in the first place? And, you know, again, God can use anything and God can turn anything around, but was that God's original plan and purpose? We have to think about that. Yes, God can always change anything, and he can, you know, as long as you submit to him, and he can always bring glory to his name. But was that his original plan and purpose? You know, God has been doing so many different miracles in the Bible, but was that his original plan? Probably not, because a lot of things would have went different if, you know, that first sin hadn't been made with Adam and Eve. And so, you know, again, if there wasn't sex outside of marriage and we just had godly marriages, I mean, man, how much easier would that would be? Because then men would be working, women would be staying at home, and not only it would, we also have to take into account how would substance abuse and mental health be affected if women were actually in their purpose and not trying to take on masculine masculine roles. And like I will always mention is that it's a ripple effect. Everything ends up being a ripple effect, and meaning that, okay, this feminist movement, okay, is probably like targeted, okay, you would think like, okay, let's just talk about females. No, because males are affected by it. And you know who's also affected by it? Society and a bigger picture and the world. And it just goes against God overall, because he is the creator. Therefore, if he created, he has a plan, and he has like an alignment, and he has a specific thing that he planned for us to be doing and to have an instruction and a blueprint and a guideline. Like, you get the picture. But I read this article, and it was like this person, and they took statistics, and they said that in 1960 to early 2000s there was an definite, like, the highest increase of inflation because women started working, and that's when things just kind of went everywhere, and it messed up everything. And now that society has kind of settled to the fact that, okay, now women are working, now it's gonna be like, it's gonna not be good if women don't work. Why? Because we have gotten used to this system that we changed back then, because we were just like, okay, yeah, women, let's be more manly and let's prove ourselves, and then regret it down the line, and then have mental health and want to use substances because we're so stressed, because we're not even doing, we're pushing ourselves more than we're supposed to be doing. We're not even doing what we're supposed to be doing. Then they're fighting, and then like, why at this point I feel like there is actually a lot of men who, and all men have potential to be a godly man, but now they're stuck in this thing where just like, it's easier for me to sit back and be the feminine role, while my woman just goes and be the man of the house. And then it's like there's like an inkling inside of women that is just like, man, I don't want to be doing all of this. And then then they start complaining, and this just happens all the time, where just then the women just start complaining, and then the men was just like, they don't understand, and then now they're just stuck in this femininity, and then it's just like a whole mind game, and then people get divorced, and then it's generational curses of feminine men and masculine women, and then demonic spirits that are attached, like jealousy and anger and this, and substance abuse and mental health. And it's just a whole mind game that we just need to go back to God and fix. I mean, if we look about every single problem that we have, the Bible has an answer for it. I mean, if you seek God enough, like, he's going to tell you. But I don't know, God just put this on my heart, and so I hope this brought light to some things, and I hope that we can change society, but we already know that it's just going to get worse. And we're already dabbling into the end times. But so that's what I got today. Hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.